for our HeatSmart campaign. And this is something the town has partnered with the City of Groton, PACE, which is People's Action for Clean Energy. You'll hear from Bernie. Groton Utilities, you'll hear from Bill a bit, and then also Lantern Energy. And so we're delighted to have this team of folks together, really just helping kind of demystify the rebates that are available, the technology that's available through HeatSmart heat pumps and other weatherization home techniques. So we know you probably have a number of questions. We are going to go through some slides to kind of present the overview and basics and hopefully answer some of those questions. But then we'll definitely do question and answer at the end. And we also have folks online on Zoom, so I'll be moderating the Q&A over there. Other housekeeping items, there's cookies and water in the back, so please help yourself. And with that, I think I will turn it over to Bernie, right? So just bear with me one moment while I get the slides presented through Zoom.
Can you hear me? Nope, you can't. You cannot hear me. Let's see.
So the microphone is more so to pick up the audio for Zoom than it is to
project
in the room.
Okay, so I'll just talk.
So you gotta be loud.
And if people on Zoom can't hear me, they'll tell you.
Yes.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for coming out. My name is Bernie Pelletier, and as Megan said, I work for a tiny nonprofit called People's Action for Clean Energy, also PACE. And one of the programs we do is HeatSmart. And what you're going to hear tonight is what I would call the foundational part of HeatSmart, which is home efficiency. In subsequent events that we're going to have, we'll talk about heat pump technology and air conditioning and things like that. But tonight, it's all about making your dwelling more efficient, less drafts, and you're going to hear from Groton Utilities and Lantern. These are the people that come into your house legally. So just to let you know, and I'm just stalling for time, Groton is the 12th town that we've come into. And I want to tell you, I don't know how you all think of yourself, but by far and away, you are the most complicated town that we've ever come into. You've got a city and a town, I just thought Groton was one place, but you've got a city and a town. And then if that wasn't enough, you've got Groton Utilities, which I refer to as GOO, and sorry about that, Bill.
That's fine.
And Eversource. So it's hard for an outlander to get everything straight. So I commend you. So my slides are actually kind of low content, so I can just sort of say that HeatSmart is a program. It's just community outreach and education, and it is making you all aware of stuff that's been there all along and just raising it to your attention. Because like so many things in our lives, it's there, we just don't think about it. And at a time like this, whether your motivation is economic, you want to save money, comfort, you're tired of having drafts and stuff like that, or environmental, they all three of those ideas come together with home efficiency. And the program's administered by Lantern and by Groton Utilities, and Eversource has comparable ones as well. We'll talk about that. That's the answer to a lot of these problems, and that's what we want to bring you in on tonight. And these guys are still, should I just click through? Yeah.
It's not presenting the slides yet.
It's not presenting.
Zoom is not letting us share it as a presentation. It just wants to show people the beautiful
Oh,
slides,
did it say share on the bottom? You know what they say, sharing is caring.
In this case, sharing is swearing.
Well, anybody didn't hear that? We've got sharing is caring, sharing is swearing. So what you're looking at here is the first page of the HeatSmart website. It's just heatsmart.org/Groton, and it will bring you to this page. I think you probably all recognize that scene there. And when you click through the page, and I encourage you all to go there, when you click through that page, you're going to see on the next slide when we show it, there are two little boxes. And can I just have a show of hands in the room? Who's with GU? Anybody with Eversource? Nobody here tonight with Eversource. So you're going to see there's a Groton Utilities little box. So all of you will click the little Groton Utilities box, and it will take you down a pathway where you can register. If for all the Eversource customers, they click the Eversource box, and that'll take them to where they belong. Because the programs are very similar, but they're not identical. So we want to get people the right information. We're going to run this campaign for 12 months. So we'll probably have 2 or 3 events. If you have a summer festival or something like that, we'll be back in the summertime. We'll have events on heat pumps will probably be our next discussion, and that'll be a kind of a technical session. So how many, can I get a show of hands, who heats with oil here? Oil. How about electric? Electric. Any propane? Wood? Okay. And anybody with natural gas? Okay. What we tend to find is that the propane, electric, and oil fuels are volatile because depending what's happening in the world, those prices go up and down, and they also tend to be the higher price fuels. So I'm glad that all of you are here because I think you're the folks that can most benefit from this sort of education. So one of the things we're going to do is talk about partners, and you basically see our partners right here. Groton Utilities is here, and that's actually a great luxury to actually have your utility person in your town. Like Eversource is a lot bigger, and it's a little bit hard sometimes to get your head around them, but I think Bill knows.
I have a direct line, so you can always get a hold of me.
Yeah. And Lantern is dedicated, they are the sole provider for Home Energy Solutions. They are the sole provider for Groton Utilities on the programs that they manage. And they also manage the Eversource programs as well. You have 2 town leaders. I can see a little picture of them there. You have the mayor in both the city and the town. I have to say you have very photogenic public officials. And I would encourage you to find the final slide, which maybe the folks online won't be able to see, but is really, there's a lot of material on our website, which I encourage you to go look at. We have a heat pump planner, which is something we borrowed from New York. How many people here have a heat pump or have heard a heat pump or are curious about a heat pump? Anybody? So you've heard about it at least. It's a big step. It's not for everybody, but when it makes sense, it makes a great deal of sense. And so the question is, when does it make sense? That's what the heat pump planner can help you suss out. It's not an inexpensive device to buy, so we have the heat pump buying guide, and what it does is it would serve to make you be a very equipped consumer. So when somebody is talking to you, you can ask them a lot of questions, and they'll realize that you've been around the block at least a couple times, so they're not going to pull the wool over your eyes. And Deb Rowe, who is our program manager at PACE, has done a great job. She's assembled a little video, it's maybe 11, 12 minutes, and it talks about all the different sort of incentives that we have in the state of Connecticut, including here in Groton. So you can get a sense of that. That would be that right there. So I think that basically is what I wanted to cover, is welcome you to HeatSmart. This is the kickoff. We'll be running till this time next year. And Megan, should we pause? Or you think you're going to figure this out, or?
We've got the strangest tech issues figuring out how to present the slideshow.
I have to say, this is a really tough crowd, and I don't do well with conflict, so at this point, I'd like to bring up Bill Reese from Groton Utilities, and he's got one slide, but I think he wants to tell you what he does all day.
All right, thank you. My name is Bill Reese. I'm from Groton Utilities. I am the Conservation and Sustainability Manager. I manage most of the rebate programs, looking to do some other things like solar and other things going down the road. But what I've learned in my basic year of being at Groton Utilities is that some of the things that we're doing at the how would you say, the very detailed level, there's a lot of rebates that we're talking about within our organization, but some of this more simple things are, I think, a better payback to our customers than some of the others. For instance, what we do with home energy savings is probably one of the best dollar for dollar payback to the people that live in our territory. If you went out and bought a $5,000 HVAC unit to heat your house, and you have all these windows that are blowing it out the side of the house, and you're not containing it, you really aren't getting the best of energy efficiencies. So what Lantern has done, and what Lantern does for us, is really tighten up houses. And for the, I'm not going to say minimal cost, but I'm going to say that you're going to get more out of your dollar going to us spending on the rebates going towards something that Lantern does than putting in a heavy HVAC or some other big unit to that's energy efficient. You're going to see a better payback as a tenant, as a landlord, as a homeowner, basically tying up and locking in your house and making it as efficient as possible. So when Megan came to me introducing Bernie, I realized that these guys are, this first step of this process of HeatSmart is really HES, or home energy savings. And then I wanted to get Lantern involved because these guys do it on a daily basis. So I want to get out of the way, I want to sit back down, but I want to introduce Lantern because they bring a lot to the table, and I'm happy to have them, and I see a lot of value in what they bring to the table to our customers. So with that, I think I've said all I really know. So
thanks, Bill. So my name is Amber. I am from Lantern Energy. I'm happy to be joined by my colleague, Margaret. We've been involved in the program for 15 years. Lantern is the preferred vendor for Groton Utilities. So if you, your friends, your neighbors have had an assessment, it was likely with our company. And I'll just walk you through what is to expect during an energy assessment. If we can skip to the next slide. So what you're seeing here is a picture of a home. The red arrows indicate areas of heat loss, like through your attic hatch, through recessed lights, that type of thing. The blue arrows here indicate where cold air can come in, like through your crawl space, basement, etc. So it's a pretty good understanding of how your home works as a system, and when it's not well air sealed, how it can be negatively affected. Next slide. So when we schedule an energy assessment, we send 2 to 3 technicians to your home, and they start with safety checks. So we always start by looking for things like mold or asbestos. We check your heating system for high levels of carbon monoxide. We just want to make sure everything is safe before we start. If we find any issues, we can connect you with professionals, and we can talk you through the next steps and how to move forward. Next slide. As long as we don't find any health or safety issues, the next step is what's called a blower door test. So this is a fan that we install in an exterior door of your home, and when we turn it on, it helps us find the source of the air leaks. So our technicians will go in the attic, in the basement. They use expandable foam to seal up those areas. And if we can skip to the next slide, please. So these are just pictures of our technicians working in the home to make it more airtight. So this technician is working in an attic, and he's sealing up using the expandable foam. Next slide. Okay, I thought there were more pictures there, but we also use caulking, weather stripping, and door sweeps within the living space to reduce draftiness, make your home more airtight, hold the heat better, etc. If you have ductwork in your home, we also offer duct sealing. So a little personal story, these are pictures from my home when I bought it about 10 years ago. And what I didn't know in my first year living here was that my whole first winter, I was dumping my forced hot air into my crawl space because there was this disconnected duct here. So Lantern found that for me, they reconnected it, and then they sealed all of the connections. And that keeps my heated air flowing up to my living space instead of into my basement. Next slide. We also offer a process called AeroSeal, and that is a more, they call it advanced duct sealing. So if you have severely leaky ductwork, it would be a better service to offer you AeroSeal, which seals your ductwork from the inside. And Groton Utilities offers a significant incentive or rebate toward that cost for you. Next slide. So when our technicians are looking at your home, in addition to the safety checks, the air sealing, the duct sealing, we also install new sink aerators and shower heads to reduce your water consumption. We upgrade light bulbs to LED, and we're also looking at the whole home, again, how it works as a system. So we're looking at the insulation, we're looking at your heating system, your water heater, and your windows. We will make some recommendations for you. We'll sit down with you at the end of the visit to talk about what we did to make your home more energy efficient that day and what you can do going forward to drive deeper savings. And one of our biggest pushes here in Groton Utilities is with insulation. So we do have an insulation division here at Lantern. So part of our job, if you need insulation, is we'll provide you with a proposal on the spot. So you'll know how much it will cost for our company to come out and install that for you. And we'll talk about the rebates that are offered through Groton Utilities. There are differences in the program offerings. We'll cover this briefly. I know the majority of people in the room today are Groton Utilities customers, but I also know that some of you on Zoom could be Eversource customers. So for Groton Utilities, there is no cost to you for this service. Everything I mentioned, the air sealing, the duct sealing, the low flow sink aerators and shower heads, LED bulbs, all of that is covered at no cost to you. For Eversource, Eversource has two different programs. One of them is called Market Rate. So there is a $75 charge, and that covers everything I mentioned. However, there are no light bulbs included in Eversource's program any longer. Eversource also has what's called an income eligible program. So if you meet certain guidelines, you receive the services at no cost. And if you need insulation, the cost of that is covered 100%. Whereas through Market Rate, they do offer you money saving rebates towards those costs. Groton Utilities has the attic insulation rebate for $2.50 a square foot. So that does end up, that's one of the highest rebates in the state of Connecticut, if not the highest. So the rebate ends up covering the majority, if not the whole cost of the insulation project. Groton Utilities also offers a heat pump water heater rebate up to $2,500, and for mini split heat pumps, which Bernie was referencing earlier, it's up to $5,000 per compressor for the heat pumps. Eversource's rebates, they fluctuate, so I don't want to cover those dollar for dollar here on this slide. Next slide. And that concludes my portion of the assessment. I did bring along my computer here, so I would be happy when we're finished here. If you'd like to come and sit with me, we can schedule an appointment on the spot for you. Otherwise, I've got a sign-up sheet here. You're welcome to leave your name and contact information. My office can give you a call tomorrow. I can answer any additional questions and get you scheduled from there. Do I have any questions?
Am I on? So two can play at this game. I want to ask the audience some questions. Who has insulation in their attic? And how thick? Is it this thick? This thick? Yeah, so I just want to put an underline under the point you made. I think the most valuable thing you can do is just insulate. And I always use the analogy, when it's cold outside, if your hair is as thin as mine is, you want to have a hat, that's your attic insulation. You want to have some good socks, that's your sill plate insulation around the basement. Makes a huge difference. That picture that Amber showed at the beginning, there's this stack effect, right? So if you don't have your socks and your hat on in your house, you heat the air, it flows out the top, draws in the cold air from the bottom. It's a nightmare. So.
Thanks, Bernie.
Does this also, the rebates like that with insulation, does that also include potentially blow-in insulation for walls and such?
There are no rebates for wall insulation. Just
Yes,
attic.
it's just attic insulation, yeah.
Great question.
We did look at that, but we couldn't, there's a couple different ways to go about that, and I know we've had some conversations about adding walls, and we couldn't really quantify, when you, say, inject it into a wall, you're not sure if you're getting a good, layer across the whole, space. So we decided not to go into that and use our funds for other things.
We do have a question online, which is, thanks, Sean. Can you please speak to any potential federal incentives?
Ooh, federal incentives are tricky.
I would say everything's about to change. I don't focus on federal incentives because a lot of them are focused on low income. I've gone to the state level a number of times, sat down with Pura, Deep, and those groups to discuss what kind of incentives the federal government has been sending down this year. And a lot of them are focused on low income and tenant type opportunities. A lot of those programs have yet to be determined at the state level. Basically, the funds come into the state level and the state decides how they're going to spend it, how they're going to split it up, all those types of things. And I don't really have any good answers for state funds or federal funds that are coming through at this point.
And I'll just add on to that. The federal may very well change next year, but if you look at that video that I referenced on the HeatSmart website, it does talk about federal incentives, and depending on the measure that you put, you can take a tax credit of up to $2,000 per year. So as long as that stays there, that would be something to look into. And certainly, I suspect most people aren't going to go with the geothermal, but those are very expensive systems. There, you can take a 30% tax credit on that. Thank you. So if you're going to do something, I would actually say get in touch with us, and we can sort of brief you on that. One of the things, and there's several programs coming down the pike, and again, who knows what's going to happen next year, but one of them is called HER, and the other is called HERE. Those are home electrification rebate programs. They are focused on lower income, but that definition is a little bit fluid. So that money, if it comes and you fit into that category, it's definitely worthwhile checking out if you qualify for that money. So I know that was an ambiguous answer, but I would say just check. I can see Sierra, you.
Of the time frame it takes to do the assessment and then have the work done, like what is a person?
Excellent question. So are you referencing the length of the appointment time, how long it takes for us to do the air sealing and that?
That portion, and then is there a follow-up to that after?
Yes, if you need insulation. So a typical appointment, that's an excellent question. A typical appointment is scheduled for about 4 hours. We need an adult to be home the whole time, and you're welcome to go about that however you like. Some people choose to use it as an education time, a time to learn about their home. So they follow our technicians around, ask what they're doing, learn about what they're doing and why. Other people work from home, and they're just happy to shake our hand as we walk through the door, give us a grand tour, and let us get to work. And we're happy to go about that however you wish. Larger homes, so I would say anything bigger than 3,500, that would be more towards a 6 or an 8-hour visit. And the installation work, so if you need insulation, we leave you a proposal and you say, I'd like to schedule this install with Lantern. Our technicians call Margaret from your home and they say, Margaret, this customer would like to get on the calendar, and then you work together to find a date. It's, what do you say, maybe 30 days?
Yeah, it's about 30 days.
Yeah. And the installation work typically takes about 1 day.
1 day. Mhm.
And that's about it. Thanks for asking the question. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Can I hand you the microphone?
We have a sunroom. Would you look at that too?
Is it heated?
We have like a hotel air conditioner heater type unit in there.
Okay. I would leave that up to our technicians. When he gets there, he would take a look at it and let you know whether it's something that he could proceed with air sealing or not. I would leave it to the professional to answer that question. Anyone else?
I do have 2 updates from Deb and 1 question online. So regarding the wall insulation blown in, Deb clarified that Eversource does still do that. And that for federal incentives, you can get up to $2,000 tax credit for energy efficiency measures.
Well done, Bernie.
And then question from Greg B is the $5,000 rebate just for mini splits, or can it be used for ducted heat pump systems as well?
It can be used for mini splits or HVAC units in the Groton territory. It's a cap of 5,000, but it really comes down to it's based on the retail price of the unit. So if you're a homeowner and you bought it from a contractor, it's the price you paid them for that unit. So if you paid them $7,000, the rebate would be capped out at $5,000. If it was a $2,300 unit, and we're just talking about the condensing unit, not all the additional gear, the heads, that type of thing, it's based on the retail price of the condensing unit, which is the piece that's outside. And so, yes, there is a cap of 5,000, but it's based on the retail rate, which, is kind of all over the board depending on the size of the unit and what you've picked to have installed.
So, oh, yes, sir.
For the rebates, are they paid to the contractor or to the homeowner?
So that can be, if you go onto our website and you said you signed up online, you can either check to homeowner, check to contractor. So that's flexible on our side.
And how about with the hot water heater?
Same deal.
And can the homeowner install it themselves?
In that case, the homeowner can install the water heater themselves, yes.
They can?
As well as the smart thermostats.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for this presentation. Perhaps more of a question for Pace. Do you know if the rebates and tax credits are pretty standardized in terms of whether or not you're a Groton Utilities customer as opposed to a Eversource customer?
Yeah, because they're federal, they're constant across the country. They don't see utility. So they're driven by sort of what income bracket you fall in and what measure you're undertaking. So.
And then what guidance would you give to customers in terms of seeing through the credit to ensure that they are actually receiving it back?
So they are administered really through your tax return. So it's almost a question. I think there's a form your tax preparer, or if you do it yourself, would have to fill in to say, yeah, I spent this and I'm due $2,000 back.
Now that's for the federal incentives. Is that you're talking about federal incentives or?
Yes. So Groton Utilities will then, as I imagine there would, for whether it's Groton Utilities or Eversource, we would have to provide confirmation or verification that they actually did receive that
That's right.
service or
Well,
installation?
our rebates programs are not tied to the federal government or anybody's tax return. So basically, you come in and you have you show that you bought a unit, you had it installed, your contractor filled out the invoice and all the information I need. I cut a check to the owner, and there's really the major limitation is, the $5,000 cap per condenser, up to 3 condensers, and a check goes out to the customer. We're not worried about their tax return. We're not, going back and giving them documentation to go to the federal government. Now, if they went and found a rebate or an incentive at the federal level, they'd have to do that on their own, and it would probably take the same paperwork that they gave me to verify that they did that project.
Yeah, that's well said. I mean, I think you do what you can at the local level, and then if it's an eligible measure, then you pursue that on your own. Lantern's not going to do that. Groton Utilities is not going to do that. That's to the individual taxpayer.
Down and keep up the great work, Bill.
Oh, thank you.
Just wanted to add to that. So as far as Groton Utilities is concerned, if there's a federal rebate, which there are, they're coming down the line. We applied July, I believe, and our application is waiting to go through the DOE, and New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Rhode Island are all on board already and are actually starting to dole out the money, or about to. So my question to you is, there's no problem with stacking these rebates in Groton Utilities' eyes as long as we meet your criteria.
From our perspective, no.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
but the federal government may be different. Who knows? Got to find out about them.
Yeah.
But from your point of view, there's no issue with me getting my water heater rebate from you, getting my condenser rebate from you, but using the rebates from the federal government to pay for the installation, because that's what they're offering.
Right. So I would say that I do not look at the federal incentives at all. They don't affect what I'm trying to do. The only issue is that we do have a limitation on tax ID numbers of, I think, $100,000. So if you had an apartment building, I can only give so much money toward, one entity.
And if I could just stack on what you said, we've been waiting for the federal dollars to turn themselves into a program that we could put on a slide, and exactly what you said. We're getting close, but we're not there yet. So some of these rules are yet to be figured out. But I do think it is coming down, and so it's definitely something we all ought to keep our eyes on. As soon as we learn something, it's going to go up on our website. We'll communicate. We're not going to get Groton Utilities into the federal program, but we're going to make them aware of what's available to residents.
Now, we are willing to work with the state on programs that come down the pipe and, try to figure out how we can be involved, because in a lot of cases, talking with Pura, sometimes they forget about our municipal utilities and funds go elsewhere. So I've had to show up, show my face, say, hey, we're still out here. How are we going to be included in this?
Steve, what most people here probably don't know, that the money that you're offering in rebates is actually coming from our utility level.
Correct.
So it's a fund for Groton Utility only, coming from Groton Utility customers only.
Correct. That's correct.
For our benefit to use it.
Right.
For us to use it.
Right.
Absolutely. And that's a really key point, and the same is true of for Eversource customers. That there's a charge on the bill, and it's actually cost effective to everybody to do these measures. So it actually helps everybody when somebody insulates, because you end up using less energy. So that's a good thing for everybody.
I have a 3-part question online. Does GU have specific heat pump units that qualify, and do they have to be cold climate? And then part 3 was, is there any GU rebate for ground source?
Okay, so I'm going to take the last one first. Ground source, I have done recently in the last 2 weeks, I've done 2 geothermal units. The cost of those projects were up there. and I still was limited to the $5,000. So the geothermal uses basically a HVAC unit, condensing unit, and we give value for that. What's the second question?
So it was part one, does GU have specific heat pump units that qualify? And part two was, do they have to be cold climate?
No. So unlike Eversource, who picks specific units, we go through a group called AHRI, which is basically a certification company. And they look at all the HVAC units, the water heaters out there, and they determine the efficiencies for all these units. Now, if you went online, and usually what happens is I'll get a call from a customer saying, I'm looking at this condensing unit, does it qualify for your program? And on our website, you can go to the rebate section, and in there, it breaks down what your EAR, SEER, HSPF ratings need to be. And there's basically three energy efficiency ratings that AHRI determines for each condensing unit. Now, if you put your condensing unit on their website, you may get 20 different versions of it, because it's got different heads, it's ducted, it's ductless, it's this, it's that. And you really got to work with whoever's putting the unit in or yourself to know, the exact version that you're using. If that unit and the total project meets the AHRI certified energy efficiency ratings, then it qualifies. So we don't pick specific units. We pick a threshold of, here is the lowest energy efficiency unit that we will make work with our program. Everything above that is even better. So I don't know if that answers the question too well.
I think so.
Okay.
For sure. I also have a question from Peter. He says, my apologies if I missed the part about the mini split rebate. Does that come to the homeowner once they pay the contractor for the equipment and have it installed, or should they apply for that after they receive a quote from the contractor?
Are they if you're a GU customer, I would say check our website before you buy anything. If you have any questions, call before you buy anything. I've had a couple customers, they've listened to their contractor sold them a system that didn't qualify. And they come to me with all the paperwork, everything put together, and I can't do anything for them. I would rather people call me and say, hey, I have this unit, this is the model, this is the information I have, is this going to qualify? And I try to walk that through with people, because I'd rather make it right the first time than try to correct it after it's already installed. So I would say you need to have it installed and paid for before you're going to get a check from GU, but you might want to reach out to us prior to putting anything in.
And if I could just underscore what you said, the same is true for Eversource. Unfortunately, I'm aware of people, contractors that have said, yes, this qualifies, and it doesn't. So there's a certain amount of due diligence that you have to do, which might include talking to several contractors. In Eversource, there are people that you can call. Here, you can call Bill and make sure, most of these contractors are really good, but some of them just plain don't know. So always check, check.
And please don't call me and say, hey, I'm going to do this myself. Can you come out and tell me how? Because I don't know.
I don't recommend putting in, unless you're an expert, putting in a heat pump. There's all sorts of things that can go wrong. It's not a handyman job.
Bill, correct?
Right.
So are you saying that you are the end-all, be-all as far as not who, but the efficiency rating for the condensers before we buy? You're the one who's going to
talk to me. Yeah,
you're the one who's going to put your stamp of approval on it.
Yeah, because the reality is, my job is to give money away, right? Okay. And I can't do it if you guys don't.
I'll see you after the show then.
Right, okay. So yes, I would rather have the conversation, walk you through it, understand where you're coming from, where you're trying to go, before you put any money down.
Any other questions? Just go quickly.
Could I just make a comment? And we got into the heat pump discussion, which we're going to have a more in-depth presentation of that soon. The foundational, I think Bill said it well. You don't put in a heat pump if your house is not efficient. You should always go through and make sure that you are sealed, that you are insulated, that you have your health and safety checks, and then think about a heat pump. So we're here tonight really to start down this road, and it's cost effective. How many people have had a HES audit here? Yeah. So
I would like to see everybody have one before they put
Yes.
in a heat pump.
Exactly.
It's something that we cover the cost of, and you know where your house is at the end of it. You know, if you're missing a wall, you'll know it. If you've got some, I don't know, some vent that's not working properly. And it's basically building a baseline for you guys to then say what's next. And I would that's why I guess I'm excited about this, because I see that Lantern is the perfect first step. And then you can go from there, and you know where you are, so you know where you're going to go.
And Amber, you've got materials up here on the table, right? So we should make sure that you walk out with whatever.
Thank you. I do have brochures here up here. I've got copies of the insulation rebate. I've got the sign-up sheet. And if you walk away from tonight remembering anything, please just remember that the 3 biggest impacts you can have on saving on your utility costs is air sealing, duct sealing, and insulation.
Yes.
And for Groton Utilities, it comes to you at no cost. So you can't lose. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Big round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.